Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sara's View of Life. I am Sara Troy. Well, this week I'm going to be talking about the royal wedding. Did you see it? I did. And what I wanted to talk about today is this. The actual wedding um, was very, very beautiful. I really did enjoy it, and I've seen most of it. But it was the perspective of it. How times have changed. I have seen the wedding since I was a little girl when I saw Princess Margaret get married, Elizabeth's sister. And I've seen every wedding since. And you know how times have changed. You know, Diana only knew Charles 13 times, 13 dates they had before they got married. She was 19 and completely green and didn't know what she was getting into. And here we are all those years later, and now her son is marrying somebody of mixed race who's been divorced before, an actress and from another country. Wow. So life is very, very interesting in how it evolves, isn't it? And what used to be deemed so important isn't anymore. And if you've watched the show The Crown, which is about Queen Elizabeth and her reign and her life and how she came into it, and the duty that was put upon her as a child, you will actually see where she is coming from. You know, hundreds of years of doctrine and dictatorship of how one should behave and how one should do things. And here, you know, she broke a few rules herself, but she has given her life to the service as a queen for her country. And you can understand if certain things along the way have upset her. Her own sister got divorced. That started the ball rolling. Charles, her son, got divorced. And that marriage was very tumultuous because it never should have happened in the first place. It was an arranged marriage. He was in love with someone else. He was denied to love that person, Camilla, who eventually later he did. And of course, he was having an affair with Camilla while he was married to Diana. So it's really life soap opera played out in you know, in the royal family. But unless you are a Brit, you really don't actually understand what the royal family means to England. Now, roll on and look at Prince William and Harry, Diana and Charles's kids, and most certainly Diana's kids when it comes to the philanthropy, the humanity, and the way they treat people. William is next in line after Charles, and most likely I would see Charles will hand it over to William straight away. I don't think he wants to be king. I don't think he ever has wanted to be king. And William really does take everything very, very dutifully, and you can see he's definitely the sensible, the dutiful one, but with a wonderful sense of love and rapport with his son, with his brother Harry. And of course, William now has just had a third child, so 2 boys and a girl, with Kate. And they're very sad. So Harry's been pushed down the line to 6th in place. So he has a lot more freedom. Plus, he's always been one to really express himself and live up to who he really is and the work that he really wants to do. And we hear that he has a very wonderful rapport with the Queen, and she really does love him because she has a great sense of humor. She just can't always show it. So here Harry meets this young woman who's actually older than him by 3 years. She is an actress. She is biracial. Mum is black, dad is white. The parents are divorced. She herself has been married before, and they hit it off immediately. And 16 months later, they get married. They got engaged 6 months ago. Kind of a whirlwind whole romance leading up to this marriage, because normally they take longer to plan. And they've done things very unconventionally. No heads of states at the wedding. Many of her friends, because we've got to remember, her dad was meant to give her away, but he has a heart problem, couldn't make it. She's very estranged from her step-brother's side. One of them even wrote a letter, a very nasty letter to Harry about how he shouldn't marry her. And one can see that there's been a lot of separation. She's extremely close to her mother, who is a social worker and a yoga teacher, and just ran a marathon, has a nose ring, and very true to herself, and has always encouraged her daughter to be true to who she is. And Megan herself, I think it was the age of 11, wrote to Johnson and Johnson about one of their ads as it kind of sexified women in the kitchen, of that's all they're good for, and had them change it to people or changing the way they do dishes rather than women. So she's always stood up for people and always taken that role, and is doing so now. And that's the reason I think why Harry and her got on so well, because they're both standing up for humanity, and they both have a love for Africa. So really, really interesting, the path that has brought them together. And so everything about their marriage and their wedding was unconventional. On her side of the family, she had just her mother, who looked so kind of out of sorts, but just so chuffed and so sweet, and looked so much like Megan. And then she had all her celebrity friends, including Ben Mulrooney and his wife, and their kids were part of the page and the bridesmaids, which was really sweet. There is a beautiful photograph, because they have twin boys at 7, that were holding the veil going up. And there's a beautiful picture. She's about to enter the church, and she's walking the first part on her own with the 2 boys just holding her veil. And one of them has this most beautiful, toothless, excited grin on his face right behind her, and it's priceless. I have it here on the posting. And and then all the little bridesmaids came and joined afterwards when they walked down the main part of the aisle, where Prince Charles escorted her, as her own father could not be there to his heart problem. And as young as 2 years of age, and no older than 5, and then the 2 boys at 7, and they were so well behaved, and it was absolutely adorable. But her mum, you can see there's a wonderful rapport between them, and it's really exquisite to see. Very tightness, very real. She'll go back to her social work. She has a daughter in the royal family now. That's not going to change who she is or what she does. And it's nice to see that somebody who's so grounded in who she is, what she does, and why she does it. Excuse me. So I put a collage of pictures together here on my posting at selfdiscoveryradio.com, on Sara's View of Life, and Sara's Royal Wedding Perspective. And one of it is, Megan smiling, coming out of the church, a beautiful smile, very elegant gown, very suited to her body, beautiful veil. And then a beautiful picture of her and her mother in the car, all smiles, and just, a magical moment. Her walking down the aisle with Harry afterwards, of course the kids, and then them in the carriage amongst the people smiling. And then, of course, that toothless one of her going with that cute picture. And then there's a video here. It's one of the videos that it just encapsulates. It's 8 minutes that just encapsulates the whole wedding in a little nutshell, that just brings it all to you. And the reason why I did it, as I said, is I wanted to kind of share what it meant to me. I am a Brit and brought up with the royal family, and with the weddings. I was a Princess Diana fan. I really liked her and what she stood for and what she did for the people. I really loved that she encouraged her children right from the word go to go into hospital, see people less fortunate, to remember that they're there for the people, which they've both continued on. And it was so wonderful to see that. And I love the honesty. A little while ago, they did a whole thing, opened up about depression, and how Harry had never really kind of dealt with his mother's death, and how it had led to depression, and how they needed to talk about the Skype call they did with Lady Gaga, and how open they've been about it, which is wonderful. So basically what they've done is they've brought the royal family into the current times, into 2018, and they're speaking to the millennials, and they're speaking to their age groups, of the next generation, is that yes, we are royal family, we do take it seriously, we do follow some pomp and circumstance. However, we are one of you, we're one of the people, we're here for the people, and we will stand by our people. And this is what's so nice to see. You're not going to change tradition that's hundreds of years in the making overnight, but you can change some practices that are more practical to deal with the times, and they've done that. They've both stepped up and represent their own age group as well as that of everyone else, but also they're personable, they are reachable, they are natural. I mean, Harry's gotten into all sorts of troubles through his time, and it's been quite funny, really. The things that he's done, the mischief he's got up to, even had an ex-girlfriend at the wedding. But he is a personable, joyful person, and he's married the woman that has finally caught his heart. They've got the same interests. The third date was in Botswana in a tent under the stars, just backpacking, au natural, no entourage. And they enjoy those moments like everyone else. You see Kate, who's, a princess, next in line of the throne, to be the king's wife, out grocery shopping. She is one of the people, and that's one of the things that makes them so approachable. And you can never blame Queen Elizabeth for not being like that. It just was not so. Everywhere she went, she had to have her entourage. From the age of 21, she stepped into her role. Her father died, and he never wanted that role. It was meant to be his brother's, but his brother wanted to marry somebody who was a divorcee, couldn't marry her and be king. So he abdicated and handed it over to his brother, who had the stutter. Watch the King's Speech. You'll see a wonderful movie on all of that. And he never wanted that role, and he died young. And then poor Elizabeth, who was a newlywed with a couple of kids at the age of 21, was thrown into this role. And she took it very seriously and has done all her entire life. And she hasn't had it easy. As I said, watch the series The Queen. It really will give you some insight on her role and how hard it was, but also what the monarchy really does stand for. So I praise the boys for who they are today and how they reach out and how they make it more real. and Harry and Meghan, I wish them a great deal of happiness. If you've got a chance, look at a few YouTubes or, the wedding. If you could see it, there was the Reverend from America doing his speech. Perhaps I think it was too long. He could have narrowed it down. It was 15 minutes. It could have been a 7-minute thing. There's lots of music and some choir singing, which was really great. And but of course, you expect those things to be long. You've got 600 people there, people from around the world coming. It's not going to be over in 5 minutes. They're going to make it a big deal. But it was a beautiful day. They couldn't have done any better with the weather, and it was very magical. And it reminds us, every little girl wants to be a princess and find her prince and live happily ever after in the castle. And here is a young lady from a mixed marriage, divorced parents, working, and an actress, and here she is. She stepped into one of the biggest roles, and I think she has the right temperament to fit into the royal family, having already been in the spotlight and knowing that how people perceive you is going to dictate everything in your life, and already speaking out and up for women and other causes. It's always been her role. So I think she's far more equipped for this role than Diana was. And I think we're going to see some good things between the two of them. And I really hope to see that good longevity and abundance for them in their lives. So it was a lovely experience to watch them, and some beautiful moments, and just capturing that wonderful magical experience of seeing a royal wedding. We're not going to see another prince be married for 20-25 years. Little George's were only 5, so at least 20 years. And so this was the last one, which made it count, and it could have been a better setting. So from this royalist Brit to you, especially in North America, where you don't really understand what the royal family stands for, and sometimes that you maybe look at your politician families as your royal idols, and you have to understand the history of the royal family has been around for thousands of years, and it's had its ups and downs and its ins and outs and its deceits and beheadings and everything else. And but it stands as a statement for the country, and it is the amount of work that the Queen and and the whole royal family do in charities and organizations and speaking on behalf of England. Their lives are completely being given up to it. That whether you've liked some of the things she didn't get on with Diana. Diana definitely rocked the boat. But from it, she got 2 kids that certainly haven't towed the line. They've created their own boat, but has been far more accepted by the Queen. And I think a lot of it, especially with Harry, is the fact because he has a great sense of humor. And apparently the Queen really likes Meghan's sense of humor as well. So it's lovely to see somebody coming together in love, in joy, celebrating that wedding. And it just lifts everybody's heart. So I enjoyed it. I hope you did. Even if you just watch this short video here or just a couple of things on YouTube, don't be cynical. Don't be the royal family. Just embrace it for what it is. A lovely love story that lifts us all up. Because surely we would all like to find our own little prince and princess, won't we? And live happily ever after? Well, that's up to us, isn't it? So until next time, folks, bye for now. For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.